Harlem, 1951. Bumpy Johnson steps forward, not as a gangster, but as the protector of black people. Tuesday, September 4th, 1951. 11:47 at night. A knock on Bumpy Johnson's back door. The knock of a man who had nowhere else to go. Dr. C.B. Powell stood in the alley, shaking. They're going to kill the paper. 6 months, maybe less. What happened next? Hearst never saw coming. Harlem, 1951. The Korean War was bleeding America dry. Senator McCarthy was hunting communists in every shadow. And in the basement of a brownstone on 135th Street, a young man named Samuel Green was writing his first story for the New York Amsterdam News. 23 years old, born in Harlem, raised on Amsterdam News headlines. His mother had cut out every front page since 1935 and pasted them on the kitchen wall. "So you never forget," she told him, "that somebody is watching, somebody is telling the truth." 2 floors above Samuel's desk, an old man named Arthur Williams sat by his window every morning reading the paper cover to cover. 81 years old. Born in Alabama. Came to Harlem in 1923. He had learned to read at the age of 67. Before that paper, Arthur told his neighbor once, "I didn't know what was happening in the world. I didn't know what they were doing to us. I didn't know we had a voice." Neither Samuel Green nor Arthur Williams knew that on September 4th, 1951, a man in a Manhattan skyscraper had decided that their world should go silent. William Randolph Hearst Jr. 44 years old, son of the most powerful media baron in American history. He had inherited the New York Journal-American 6 weeks earlier when his father died. And he had inherited something else, his father's belief that some voices deserved to be heard, and some did not. The Amsterdam News had been a thorn in the Hearst family's side for 20 years. It had covered stories the Journal-American refused to touch: police brutality, housing discrimination, wage theft. Hearst Jr. had read every word, and he had decided it was time to make the Amsterdam News understand its place. He made phone calls. One by one, he contacted the major advertisers who kept the Amsterdam News alive. The message was always the same, delivered quietly, over lunch, without threats. "We think a company of your standing might reconsider where it places its dollars." Nobody said no to William Randolph Hearst Jr. Not in 1951. Within 3 weeks, 11 major advertisers had pulled out. Dr. C.B. Powell watched his revenue collapse floor by floor. Quietly, before anyone noticed the cracks. Powell had not told his staff, had not told Samuel Green, had not told anyone that the paper they came to every morning might not exist by spring. But he had to tell someone who understood power, someone who knew how to fight back without being seen fighting. At 11:47 on a Tuesday night, Dr. C.B. Powell knocked on the back door of Bumpy Johnson's office. Bumpy poured 2 glasses of bourbon. He listened without interrupting as Powell laid out everything: the withdrawals, the phone calls, the 6-month timeline. When Powell finished, Bumpy set down his glass. "Hearst Jr. did this personally?" The calls came from his office. Bumpy nodded. "And the World Telegram? His relationship with them?" "They hate each other. 15 years of war." "Why?" Bumpy looked at him. "Because a man busy fighting his enemies doesn't have time to strangle his neighbors." "What are you going to do?" Bumpy picked up his glass. "I'm going to give Hearst Jr. something more important to worry about than your newspaper." Bumpy spent 2 days building the complete picture of Hearst Jr.'s operation. He already knew more than most people suspected. For years, he had maintained quiet relationships with people in every corner of New York's power structure. Lawyers, accountants, printers, switchboard operators, delivery drivers, people invisible to men like Hearst Jr., people who saw everything. What they told him was useful. Hearst Jr. had inherited not just his father's newspapers, but his father's debts. The Journal American was bleeding readers, circulation down 18% year over year. And Hearst Jr. had made decisions that were not entirely above board. A printing contract awarded to a company where he held a silent interest. A real estate transaction, Journal American property undervalued by 40%, sold to a Hearst family holding company. On paper, accounting irregularities. In the right hands, at the right moment, delivered to the right audience. They were leverage, but Bumpy had no interest in confronting Hearst Jr. directly. The most effective pressure comes from an unexpected direction. He needed the World Telegram. Friday morning, September 7th, 1951. An envelope arrived at the World Telegram's city desk. No return address. Inside, 14 pages of financial documentation, the printing contract, the real estate transaction, and a single typed note. A competitor is weakening himself. The question is whether you are paying attention. The city editor read it twice, called the publisher. By Friday afternoon, 3 reporters were verifying the documents. By Saturday evening, the lawyers had cleared publication. The story ran Sunday morning. Journal American publisher faces questions over financial irregularities. Hearst Jr. read it over breakfast. His phone began ringing at 7:14 a.m. and did not stop. His lawyers called. His board members called. His advertisers called. The same advertisers he had spent 3 weeks pressuring against the Amsterdam news. They were no longer thinking about Harlem. By Monday morning, Hearst Jr. was in emergency meetings with his legal team. Nobody was calling Amsterdam news advertisers anymore. Hearst Jr. had bigger problems. 6 days after Dr. Powell knocked on that back door, Bumpy's phone rang at 8:15 in the morning. It was Marcus Webb. The first advertiser called Powell, wants to come back, said the business climate has changed. Bumpy was quiet. How many? 3 so far, 2 more by end of day. Bumpy set down the phone, picked up his book, found his page, and continued reading. By week's end, 7 of the 11 advertisers had quietly returned. Not because anyone threatened them, but because the man they feared was no longer projecting power. He was defending himself, and a man defending himself has already lost his leverage. Samuel Green never knew what happened. His landlord's story ran on the front page 2 weeks later. Arthur Williams bought his Amsterdam news on Thursday morning, same as always. Sat by his window, made coffee, and read every word. Dr. C.B. Powell sent one handwritten note to 116th Street. The paper will survive. Harlem will know the truth. I won't forget. Bumpy read it once, folded it, placed it in his desk drawer, and went back to work. Hearst Jr. never again made phone calls about the Amsterdam news. He had learned something his father's money never taught him. Because some men, the ones you cannot see, the ones who work in silence, are already 3 moves ahead. The Amsterdam News is still publishing today, because on Tuesday in 1951, a man knocked on a back door in Harlem, and the man who answered knew one thing Hearst never understood. Power is not the ability to silence people. It is the ability to make sure they are never silenced. If this story moved you, subscribe to The Gangster Life, because Bumpy Johnson's story doesn't end here. Drop a comment. Could Bumpy Johnson exist today? We'll see you in the next one.